Episode 3 of the new Star Wars show, Ahsoka, is here. And in this video, I want to talk about Episode 3 of Ahsoka, give you my thoughts on how the show's performing, and answer the question that's on everybody's mind. Is this show saving Star Wars? We'll talk about that at the end of the video. Also, this video is brought to you by Unity, my new graphic novel, which is live on Kickstarter right now. And I've got a really crazy new offer for people that back the book in the next week, but we'll talk about that at the end of the video. Ahsoka Episode 3 is my favorite episode of the show so far, but strangely, it still has plenty of issues and plenty of things that I'm kind of taking issue with. After the intro, we get into a scene with Sabine training with Huang, the Jedi Order droid. And I thought this sequence was cool. Like, it's really fun. It had great music. I love the lightsaber flashlight things that he uses to judge her striking. And it transitions into a scene where you have Ahsoka doing a specific kind of training with Sabine. And there's a lot I love about these scenes, but there's a lot of stuff that I didn't love. I mean, this is 7 minutes of this 34-minute episode. It is essentially just training to show us things we already know about the Sabine character. In fact, a lot of this stuff is virtually repeated from her sequences of training with Kanan Jarrus in the Rebels show. So this tension and the sort of thing that happened off screen with her attempting to train Sabine before is cool in the sense that it drives the tension in the scenes, but as a big hardcore fan, I can't help but feel like I already know a lot of this stuff and it feels a little bit artificial. Now we next cut to a sequence with Hera talking to Mon Mothma and other senators about Grand Admiral Thrawn, and this scene is good, but there are still a few things in this scene that I don't like. And basically it all comes down to Hera getting really upset at the senator and her asking him if he ever served in the war, which is fine. I would have been fine with it there. It's already insubordinate, it's already kind of out of pocket, but she pushes it to the absolute limit by literally saying this guy just sat back to watch who would win the war. And while that is true, it feels so ridiculously crazy for her to say in the setting that she is at. And I just, from what I remember of the Hera character, she actually had a level of tact. She had a level of strategy. She would feel the way she would feel, but she would never cross this line of decorum, knowing that it would essentially eliminate the chance of getting the support she needs to go help Sabine and Ahsoka. However, seeing Jason Sindelar was freaking awesome. Loved that sequence, and the whole moment in the show doesn't kill the episode for me, but I'm just trying to be honest. I really like this episode, but the beginning of the show kind of just continues some of the things that I've had issue with in the first 2 episodes. Now we next cut to a conversation between Sabine and Ahsoka where they're talking about the training, talking about the Force, and I know some fans are going to take issue with this part. By the way, I'm going to do a whole video on what Dave is actually doing with the Sabine character, because there's various hints in these 3 episodes that show what they're going to end up doing with her, and she will likely be a lot more like the Chirrut Inway character from Rogue One than a fully fledged Jedi that can actually utilize the Force. Again, going to do a whole video on that, but for now, this scene works in the show, and this is because every living thing is connected to the Force, and if they can open themselves up to the connection to the Force, they can do things that they otherwise would not be able to do. But as Ahsoka says, talent is a factor. And the thing is, I like this scene, but the show is a little bit confusing. What exactly are they trying to do with the Sabine character? Every character in the show is telling Sabine that she has no aptitude for the Force, and yet Ahsoka is saying that she can open herself up to it. And yet in the very next scene, Ahsoka tells Huang that she doesn't need Sabine to be a Jedi. She needs Sabine to be herself, which is not only maybe the most cringe line of the entire show so far, but it also just muddles the whole point. It's so confusing. What are we doing with Sabine? But that is where my issues with this episode end, because I think from this point on, this becomes some of the best Star Wars I've seen since the Luke episode at the end of Mando Season 2. And I know that might sound crazy, right? People will be like, oh my goodness, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Well, frankly, guys, this crazy action sequence, all of it, from literally that moment on, felt adventurous, just like Star Wars is when it's at its best. The action was dope. The villains were dope. The sequence was dope. Coming over the planet to this crazy hyperspace ring, getting shot down. Ahsoka going out into space to fight freaking ships. I mean, that is awesome, dude. That is dope. But I think this scene just goes crazy when they actually then go to the planet planet and they're flying around the Purgle. What an insane visual sequence that just feels like vintage Star Wars. It feels perfect. That is the exact adventure vibe that I am looking for. And it, of course, ends off in a really cool way where they go to hide in the forest and they're all aware, like we end on Balin being aware that the Jedi are hiding in the forest. The assassin droids are coming to get them. You're going to have Marrok and Shin and Balin, and they're all going to be trying to go fight Ahsoka and Sabine. Oh, and we also get a great explanation for what this hyperspace ring is. It's very similar to the one that's used for the Jedi craft in the prequels, which will allow a vessel to go through hyperspace at even greater speeds and for even greater distances. And of course, it's going to go along the migration path of the Purgle to get to another galaxy. Back half of the episode is so damn incredible. I want to give it a really high score, but the beginning part of the episode drags, it's slow, and it repeats some of my least favorite things about the show, which unfortunately is the dynamic between Sabine and Ahsoka. Like, I think at some level here, I have to be real and just admit that core elements of the show so far are not working for me. It's ironic that that is the case, and I'm still enjoying the show as much as I am, but make no mistake about it, this is not the masterpiece I thought it could be, and frankly, the masterpiece that maybe we deserve. Because the next inevitable question is like, is this show saving Star Wars? It feels like Star Wars is maybe at the lowest point it has ever been as a brand. And a lot of people, including myself, were looking for this show and Dave Filoni to be this sort of turning point, to give us something we'd never seen before, to give us something so cool and so authentically Star Wars that many fans that have been turned off by Kenobi and Book of Boba Fett and whatever the fuck Andor was, would come back to the brand and be excited about enjoying actual Star Wars once again. And unfortunately, guys, I just gotta be real here. I don't think it's working. It's not working yet. The show has some serious issues, and essentially all of the minor things that the show doesn't do right become ammunition for people that want to hate on the show or for people that are just incredibly critical of Disney Star Wars. And look, is some of that hating? Absolutely. Is some of that your regularly scheduled programming, perhaps even written months in advance? Possibly. But I think a lot of it is just where Star Wars fans are. Like, I know a lot of authentic fans that love Star Wars that have been absolutely crushed by what Disney has done over the past 6 years. And I think it's absolutely fair for people that feel that way to come into these shows with that baggage. How could they not? And how could they not be incredibly critical of everything that's happening in the show because they remember how these things panned out in other Disney Plus shows and in the sequels? And so as much as I'm enjoying Ahsoka and I really think it's a freshness that Star Wars needs, I'm actually here to tell you I don't think it's saving Star Wars. And I think the current viewer numbers, which were first released by Samba and then later released by Disney, and the truth is it's somewhere in the middle, but it's obvious the show is underperforming. Yeah, I think those numbers just speak to the reality of where Star Wars fans are at and where the show is at. However, I actually have good news because I've come to believe that everything the show will do from here on out is actually going to be on another level. I think this sort of slow atmospheric start, which really focuses on the sort of tension between Sabine and Ahsoka, I think all of that is going to go away as the next episode will likely just be Hera showing up, which we've seen in the trailers, Sabine and Ahsoka fighting against Balin, Marrok, Shin, etc. And it's likely to lead to a scenario where they're going to all go through that hyperspace ring and end up in this new galaxy with Thrawn and Ezra. And so I think episode 4 is going to be very fast paced. I don't think there's going to be a lot of downtime or slower training sequences or anything like that. And I think once we get into episode 5, everything's going to have a completely different feel and it's going to move at a very quick pace. And so even though I think the show so far is not killing it and not like bringing everybody back, I don't think it's so bad that people wouldn't watch these episodes knowing where the show is going to go. And if it's as epic and truly crazy as I think it could be, then I think Ahsoka still has a chance to be one of the most popular Disney Plus Star Wars shows, if not the most popular one, and to bring a lot of fans back to the brand. But now I want to briefly talk about my comic Unity, this huge graphic novel that I now have available for pre-order on Kickstarter. This is a book and a universe I've been working on for years. It puts in my favorite stuff, from superhero stuff, even some Star Wars, some Dragon Ball stuff in it. It's kind of like Judge Dredd meets Watchmen. So we definitely could use your help. If this sounds interesting, go check out the Kickstarter. I will link it in the description. I will also put it in the pinned comment. And if you back the Kickstarter by next Wednesday, September 6th, you are automatically entered to win this. This is the very first action figure of a character in the Unity comic book, and this is a prototype that I'm actually going to paint by hand myself. Check out the Kickstarter. If you want to back it, I'd suggest backing it in the next week so you're entered to win this dope one-of-one action figure. Thanks for watching this video. As I always say, I hope you're having an awesome and a nerdy day, and I'll see you in the next video.